Hi, welcome to the presentation, Accessing and Evaluating Web Resources. This is hosted by Washoe County School District's 21st Century Learning Department. My name is Sarah Stewart, and I will be your presenter for this session. I am the Instructional Technology Specialist for the Striving Readers Grant. Washoe County School District supports 21st century learning strategies. In fact, this is part of our strategic plan. One of the initiatives in our strategic plan states that teachers will implement 21st century learning teaching and learning strategies. Therefore, it's important that we gain a deeper understanding of what 21st century learning is and what it looks like in context of teaching and learning. To accomplish this task, we have adopted a framework for 21st century learning that has 6 dimensions. These are the dimensions that you see on your screen. Here you can see them, and I've put a check mark next to the ones that are supported strongly through accessing and evaluating resources, which is what we will explore today. Take a few minutes and look at the Washoe County School District Framework for 21st Century Learning. This framework has been adapted and modified from the Microsoft Innovative Teaching and Learning Research. To take a closer look at the Washoe County School District framework, you can visit our website, WCSD21.com, and you'll see it right there on the home page. When you click on it, it will actually open it up as a PDF, and then you're able to get a closer look at this framework. So before we continue on, here's just a quick look again at the strategic plan. Initiative is to strengthen learning and teaching through technology and 21st century instructional strategies. So here I've highlighted knowledge construction and its criteria, and we're going to go ahead and take a closer look at each step in the criteria for knowledge construction and talk about how that relates to accessing and evaluating web resources. Keep in mind on this framework that as you climb up the criteria, that represents more opportunity for students to develop 21st century competencies. The goal of this framework is to use it as a planning guide, so having it near you as you're designing learning experiences and referring back to those areas of the framework that are best supported and constantly asking yourself whether or not you can make changes in order to increase those competencies. Okay, so taking a closer look at knowledge construction, we can see the desired components here. Remembering again that as we move up the ladder, this represents more opportunities for students to develop 21st century competencies. And for knowledge construction, this occurs when they apply critical thinking. That's what this dimension is all about, applying critical thinking that goes beyond basic knowledge reproduction. So students are generating ideas and new understandings. So let's look at the matrix and look at each level and talk about some instructional design considerations that you could think about as you're planning. So the first criteria that must be met in the activity is that it has to require some knowledge construction. And again, that occurs when students are building and applying new knowledge, not just simple reproduction or regurgitation of information and facts. So in this webinar, we are exploring basically how students can do effective online research and how they can access appropriate resources and evaluate them. This definitely supports this dimension of knowledge construction, as research is an opportunity for students to build and construct knowledge. So the example that I'll use today is, let's say that I'm asking my students to research about energy. And if this is the primary focus of our activity, and I've designed some key clear expectations for what they are supposed to learn about energy as they research, then it definitely would meet that first criteria. So to build on that step, let's go ahead and look at the second level. And In order to climb up, it has to be the primary purpose of the activity. So again, in our example, this is exactly what we're researching. It's to construct knowledge on energy. And generally, when we're doing research, that is our key purpose, is to construct new knowledge. Just as the planner, we have to make sure that we have expectations that allow that research and new knowledge to go into the critical thinking phase and not just regurgitate facts that they find. Okay, to make the next leap, students are required to apply their new knowledge into a new context. So they have to apply what they've learned. So let's say that they take what they've learned and researched about energy and waves, and they're applying it into the science of seismology. And they're making that connection between energy and earthquakes. Maybe they are building models. Finally, the highest level is that the activity is interdisciplinary. And so back to our example, let's assume that the students have been required to maybe write an informational piece about earthquakes. If standards are supported through both English language arts and science, then it would meet this criteria. You can't just say, well, okay, they're writing, and so, yep, it meets ELA. You have to go back to the standards, and in order for it to be interdisciplinary, you have to choose two completely different content areas and look at the standards, and if your activity meets the standards of both, then it would meet that criteria. Okay. So we have talked about where the skills of accessing and evaluating fit into the strategic plan, and we've explored our 21st century learning framework, but we haven't addressed where and how it supports the Nevada academic content standards. And so what I'd like you to do is go ahead and read this anchor standard that's on the slide. And now that you've read that, I think it's clear that this is an excellent fit for what we're talking about today. It's important that students understand how to critically access, find, and evaluate digital information. And it's an important skill for all learners of all ages, from beginning learners all the way up to adults. It's a lifelong skill that really needs to be integrated into all levels and content areas. The verbs here that you see on the screen are the key skills necessary to meet this standard. And together, these are skills that are often referred to as information literacy skills. Most of our definitions of information literacy center on basic communication competencies of accessing information, analyzing it, evaluating, and then communicating the information that you've learned. So after students have an idea of what topic or subject that they want or need to learn about, they need to know how to access or find the information. We know in this day and age, digital information is so ubiquitous, it's everywhere. And so it's really important that students get the skills that they need to be successful at searching and finding quality sources of information. There are different research models that can assist students with this. And yes, they need to understand the various search engines, search techniques. You also need to include information about different databases that maybe your school has subscriptions to, and make sure that they understand the importance of a variety of sources. So accessing is kind of the first step. Next, your students have to analyze the information that they've found. They need to analyze it for accuracy and ask themselves, is it valid? Is it current information? And is it accurate? Can't use it if it doesn't meet those criteria. So we need to make sure our students know it's not okay to just do a search and take whatever comes up at the top of our search results. Okay, so the next step is students must analyze that information and think critically about it. So they're evaluating it. Who made the message or the information? What's the purpose? How might others view the message? Is it biased or is it balanced? And then finally, students must communicate what they've learned. So providing students meaningful ways to share what they've learned is really important in 21st century learning. Some quick examples might be that they publish what they've learned on a website, a podcast, a wiki, or a blog. And some of the other presentations in our series go into that area in a little bit more detail. Okay, so let's begin by learning more about strategies for helping students find and access information. We're going to start by watching a 6-minute video that's produced in conjunction, produced by the Teaching Channel in conjunction with Common Sense Media. And in this video, you'll see how a teacher uses different strategies to teach her students about accessing information more efficiently. And then we'll follow that up with some questions for you. As you view the video, you might want to keep this question in mind. This is what we will address after you're done watching the video. Okay, so moving on, we're going to explore some strategies for using Google. Of course, Google's not the only way to access and find information, but it is one that students utilize on a fairly consistent basis. So we need to make sure that, of course, we teach students how to use databases and other sources, but because they do use Google so often, we want to make sure that they understand how to use it effectively. So to start, we're going to go ahead and watch this short video on Google search techniques. So there is a handout that you will have the opportunity to download, and this is a nice thing to have handy next to your computers. It provides students with some modifiers that they can use to type in their Google search box to help refine their results and therefore get better results. So go ahead and look at a couple of these. There may be some that you weren't aware of before. I think exact phrases, putting quotations is very important. So here you can see in their example that if you put quotations around the exact phrase, you'll get results that include that exact same phrase. If you did this one small step for man search without the quotations, you'd get a lot of different results back. Maybe those that have the word one and those that have the word small and step, and not necessarily as refined. So that's an excellent one. Excluded words is also a nice one to use. If you put a minus sign in front of the word, it will basically yield you results, but nothing that includes that word. So bass fishing, if you did the search bass minus fishing, you'd get results about bass, but nothing about fishing. So that can come in handy. Another example may be Vikings. Well, since there's a football team named Vikings, it might be helpful to do the exclude Vikings or exclude football, and then it would again help refine your search. You can see, I'll let you guys explore this, and one of the interactives is I'd like you to try at least 3 of these different modifiers. Well, actually, let's do 4. 2 from the first column and 2 from the blue column, because they're fairly different. The red ones generally help you refine your search, and then the blue ones kind of help produce information that you might be looking for. So you can actually get conversions, answers to math by typing that right in the URL, linked pages, site specific. So if we want to teach our students to generally look for sites that are .edu, and so this is one way that you can do that fairly quickly. You can also find definitions and meanings. So you'll be given the opportunity to look at this and then choose a couple that you want to try. So here you can see in my browser, I'm right here at the very top in my URL, and I've just put 200 plus 45, and it brings up my answer. So you can see there's a lot of different ways that you can use this. Smug, define smug. So it's really simple to utilize your search engine in a lot of different ways, not only to refine, but also to get some quick information. Let's try that. Vikings. And when I just do a search on Vikings, of course, the first thing that comes up is football. So that's where I might want to tell my students to do minus football. And then you can see down here, still not excellent results, but I'm not getting, although that first one does talk about football, that's interesting. But underneath, it's generally, all right, so I think it's time for you to play around with some of these and report back what you found. Okay. So one way that you can help students practice and develop these search skills is to provide them with occasional search challenges. And students love challenges, so this is a fun activity. Google has this covered, so this isn't something that you have to come up with from scratch. You can try out what they call a Google a day, and this is a great place to start. So to give you a better idea of what this is, we're going to watch this little overview video. And then I'm going to ask you to try one of these Google a day challenges and share your experience. So we've talked about accessing, and now we're going to move on to analyzing and evaluating. So your students, after they have located and found some information, they need to be able to think critically about these sources. Asking questions about the credibility, the relevance, the authority, the accuracy, and the purpose is extremely crucial in this process. And there's a lot of different models that can support students in this process. The one that I'm going to share with you today is called the CRAAP test. So CRAAP is an acronym, and we will explore what each stands for. And as you can tell, it's one that students don't generally forget. That's why I like this one. The C stands for credibility, the R for relevance, A for authority. There's actually two A's. Second A is accuracy, and the final is purpose. And there's where we get our acronym, CRAAP. So let's take a deeper dive into each one of these and find out what kinds of criteria students should be thinking about. Okay, so let's take a closer look. Under credibility, we want our students to think about the currency. So what is the timeliness of this information? When was it published or posted? We want them to look at whether or not it's been updated or revised. So in addition to whether it's been revised or updated, the students need to ask themselves that question of, does your topic require current information, or will older sources work? And finally, are all the links functional? So to get some more practice with these, I'm going to give you guys a site, a sample site, and I would like you to use the CRAAP test document handout that I have provided, and I'd like you to evaluate just for that criteria of credibility. Okay, next is relevance, our R. So here we have to ask ourselves the importance of the information for our needs. So students have to really question what their purpose is. So this includes, does the information relate to your topic, or does it answer the question that you're trying to answer? We need to also ask ourselves, who's the intended audience of this information? Is the information at an appropriate level? It's, example, is it too elementary or is it too advanced? I used to have students all the time bring back research to me and they couldn't even pronounce the words. It was so difficult for them. So it definitely was not an appropriate research site. Again, and there was no way they could really understand or analyze what they were researching if it was at a too advanced level. So have you looked at a variety of sources before determining if this is the one you'll use? And are you comfortable citing this source in your research paper? These are all things you have to think about. So again, we're going to evaluate a sample site just for this criteria of relevance. Next is authority. So we have to ask ourselves, who's the author, publisher, or source of this information? What are the author's credentials, or what organization are they affiliated with? And are they qualified to write on the topic? It's also helpful to look for contact information. It's not good if you can't even identify who is the author. Next, we should look at the URL. Does that reveal anything about the author or source? Is it a .com, a .edu, a .gov, a .org, or .net? Next, we're looking at accuracy, and this is the reliability, truthfulness, and correctness of the content. So the first thing students have to ask themselves is, where does this information come from? And is it reliable, truthful, or correct? That will help. Knowing where it comes from will help them address that. Is the information supported by evidence? Again, helping them use their critical thinking skills. Has the information been reviewed, peer reviewed, or refereed? Can you verify any of the information in another source or from personal knowledge to make sure that it's accurate? And really important is it unbiased? Does the language or tone seem unbiased and free of emotion? And also we want to look at little things like, are there spelling, grammar, or typographical errors? Because that doesn't seem, it's probably not a very reliable professional source if there's a lot of errors. So now you'll get to practice looking for the criteria of accuracy. And next we have purpose. This is, students have to ask themselves, what is the reason this information exists? What's the purpose of this information? Is it to inform? Is it to teach? Is it to sell something? Or maybe it's just for entertainment? Or are they trying to persuade? What are the author's intentions? Do the authors or sponsors of this information make their intentions or purpose clear? Is this information fact, opinion, or propaganda? Again, really have to think critically about the information. Does the point of view appear objective and impartial? Are there political, ideological, cultural, religious, institutional, or personal biases present? Okay, so let's have you practice analyzing for purpose. So at this point, we're going to pause and we're going to watch a video, again, produced by the Teaching Channel and Common Sense Media. And I would like you to think about these questions on the screen as we watch this teacher lead her students through a lesson on identifying high quality sites. You will be asked to share your thoughts out on these. So now that we've gone through the background and you've seen some different examples and you've explored some criteria, you might be wondering how to find more resources to help assist you in teaching these skills to your students. And I'd like to introduce you to Common Sense Media. This is a website that has a wealth of information on digital literacy topics. And I'm going to take you on a brief tour, and then you will be given some time to explore and see if you can find some resources that will support you the most. Okay, so when you go to commonsensemedia.org, you can see it's a very comprehensive site, and it's for teachers and parents and administrators. It's got a lot of really great resources that you can explore. The particular resource that I would like you to take a closer look at is a scope and sequence tool that they have. So I'm just going to simply type in scope and sequence under their search bar, and then it will bring up their scope and sequence that helps you find lessons And what's really nice about it is they have them divided up into subcategories. So we're generally looking mostly for information literacy topics and maybe even creative credit and copyright. But as you can see, they've got a wide variety of topics here. They do have a filter tool, so you can filter it by specific grade levels. And then once you've clicked, so I've already clicked on information literacy and creative copyright, it's filtering lessons that support those two areas for my grade level. So now I can kind of skip through here and see if any of these, I'm going to go to information literacy, becoming a web celeb. So if I wanted to explore that one in more detail, I could click on it, and then they have excellent, really quality lessons. They give you all of the resources that go along with it. You do have to sign up for an account if you want to download the lesson materials. But just without logging in, you can see the different materials in preparation. They're very relevant examples that are age appropriate that kids really relate to. They break it down into an introduction and then exactly what you're going to teach. They always help break down the key vocabulary and terms, and they align it with the Common Core state standards. So I'd like to give you guys some time to explore that scope and sequence and share out a lesson that you think you might be able to use to support accessing and evaluating information. So there are quite a few different models. We have explored the CRAAP model. The video that we watched earlier of the teacher walking her students through strategies for identifying quality sites, she utilized a specific checklist, and that will be provided for you to look at as well. And here is also some other critical evaluation surveys from Kathy Schrock's site. And she has these available at different levels. So you can see elementary, middle, and secondary. But she also has evaluation surveys that students could use with blogs, podcasts, online videos, and things that are different formats. So we've explored quite a bit in our exploration today, but there are even more ideas on our Pinterest board. So we'd like to encourage you to utilize that resource. Also, take a moment to read the disclaimer. And I really would like to thank you for choosing this presentation. I really feel very passionate about this topic, and I really feel it's one of the most important skills that we can give to our students and prepare them not only for college and careers, but just for life in general. So thank you, and I hope that you've learned some new things that you can implement into your classroom.